So I was with a friend the other day, and let's just say he's a little bit down on the world right now. As I probed this unhappiness and frustration a bit further, I heard echoes of Chinese economic and military dominance, frustration with monetary policy, and there was even a vague reference to the hollowed neutral rate and a general sense that humans are doomed. We hear this pretty frequently from people of all walks of life and political leanings. It's helpful to remember, though, that our brains are hardwired to engage with and respond to bad news. And as such, we're inundated with bad news frequently in order to gain our attention. Somewhat unfortunately, we're in a moment where, due to this current government shutdown, most of the data that we have come to love and relish is not even being released. So for this market update, I offer a slightly different perspective. Sometimes the best thing we can do is 1, zoom out, and 2, have others show us that perhaps the view we hold might not be perfectly accurate. With that, let me start with a few things. Swedish physician and academic Hans Rosling once wrote, "Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but not to their own facts." You see, contrary to the popular opinion, and certainly contrary to the news that we hear every day, the world has made and continues to make some remarkable progress. And yes, this is not from an economic growth or profitability perspective, but from, quite simply, a human perspective. After all, growth in and of itself is not good or bad unless it's associated with an improvement in the collective human experience. Growth, for example, if done well, can lift people out of poverty and improve lives. Which brings us to the first demonstration of that idea, the life expectancy of the United States citizens. The chart shows the life expectancy of the population of the United States going back to 1876. Then, the life expectancy of an American was about 39. Wow. Fast forward, and today it's more than double that at age 80. Life expectancy in many ways is the perfect integrator of human welfare because it combines the advances in nutrition, medicine, education, and yes, peace. And while the United States is just one country, it certainly shows a story of remarkable improvement. Perhaps even more fascinating is that just in the past 20 years, that line is 5 years lower. And in just 2 decades, we've increased our life expectancy on average 5 years. Ah, yes, you say, but perhaps the wealthy are simply pushing that line higher with better medicine, better access, better nutrition, and the like. After all, this is the wealthiest country in history. How about the less fortunate? Okay, let's look at this chart. This chart takes 194 countries for which we have data and averages the percentage of people living on less than $3 per day. And yes, the data is inflation adjusted. So, just 25 short years ago, nearly 20% of the global population was living in extreme poverty. And today, that number is closer to 3%. In 1980, just 45 years ago, that number was nearly 40%. Said another way, if you're older than 25, you've just lived through the most rapid improvement in living standards in recorded history. Perhaps more stunningly for Americans, it happened fairly quietly in areas like China, India, and sub-Saharan Africa. All right, you say, now we're talking, but how about the kids? Well, thanks for asking, which brings us to this chart. Let's be clear on this chart. In the year 1800, which you see on the far left, for every 1,000 births, the chart shows the number of expected deaths from birth to age 5. To make this clear and let me have some apologies because it's so morose. In the year 1800, roughly 422 children were expected to die between birth and their 5th birthday. Today, that number is 23 out of 1,000. Think of that magnitude. This literally means that every day, tens of thousands of children who would have died in 1960, for example, are now living healthy, productive lives. For those interested in history, the massive change in the slope in the early 1900s was from humanity figuring out that sanitation actually mattered. From there, the slope accelerated further with the development of antibiotics in the 1940s. We're living in the safest, healthiest, and most prosperous time in the entire of mankind. We're living longer, have fewer health issues, less risk of dying, more equality, and generally far more wealth and resources than previously imaginable. Are there challenges? Yes. Do we occasionally make poor decisions and poor policies? Absolutely. Is everyone similarly benefiting in this era? Certainly not. And yet what remains true is that unequivocally, humanity is improving upon many different measures, and occasionally, despite all the negativity, bipartisan politics, conflict, and tragedy to add to that, it's an amazing path that we've been on.